What is going on, my beautiful viewers? Thank you yet again for spending a little bit of time with me today. We are going to go into our July wrap up, before August is done. So, anyways, going into a few books that I've already talked about, we have John Scalzi's Red Shirts, which is a parody of Star Trek. Awesome, awesome book. Hilarious, very quick read too. So, if you're a fan of Star Wars or Star Trek, Star Wars, even because it makes some references in there to that. Yeah, just any of the old school sci-fi stuff. Yeah, check it out. I think you'll get a little enjoyment out of it. Next up is The Restaurant at the End of the Universe by Douglas Adams, the sequel to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and just as good as Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in my opinion. This is an awesome series. I can't wait to move on to book 3, which should be very soon. And up next is a friend of the channel, Mike Molman, with Becoming a Druid. And Mike Molman is an awesome writer, even more awesome guy, and I highly recommend you pick up this book. It's quite good. Got the Dungeons and Dragons, 5e Druid thing going on. It's quite nice. It gets heavier than you expect, but in a really good way. Next up is another friend of the channel, Troy Knowlton with Seekers, The Winds of Change, first book in the series. Uh, very good YA introduction to multi POV fantasy. Highly recommend if you're a beginner or you just want something, a really nice YA to read. This is a good one to pick up. And wrapping up the ones that I've already talked about a little bit, Werewolf of Whitechapel by Susanna Roundtree. This was an awesome book. Heard a lot of people talk about this, looking like a paranormal romance cover. It may have slight, resemblance to that, but definitely not one of those. Quite good, more like a Sherlock Holmes mystery with werewolves and vampires and stuff like that added to it. So, quite a good book. Definitely check this one out. Now, a couple that I haven't talked about in my last video. First up is The Crew by Dearest Mirror. This was a fantastic book. Absolutely love the cast of characters, and Baby Arm. Read it, you'll find out what that reference is, and it had me busting out laughing. Another one is Magic is Dead by Ian Frisch. This is a nonfiction book about a writer, Ian, that met up with a few awesome new school magicians that, they formed a little club, and this is about the club and him joining the club. Awesome book. If you're looking for a nonfiction book that is interesting, will hold your attention, and has a lot of heart to it, definitely check that one out. To wrap up what I read last month, we have Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson. This was presented so much as like this, difficult book to get through, and oh my god, it was this confusing and everything else. And it was kind of confusing, but I enjoyed what was there. I don't exactly know what's going on, but I like what's going on. If that makes sense, I highly recommend it. If that's the worst book in the series, like I've heard people talk about, then well, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with the series. So I'm highly looking forward to moving forward on that series, which I am with. Well, was Nuclear Katie. Now I think it's Unclear Katie. Kind of unclear on that one. And then Tori Talks as well. And I think Christopher Nabo is reading this with us as well. So great channel. If you haven't checked out Nabo's channel, well, it'll be linked in the description, as well as Tori's. And if Nuclear/Unclear Katie will pop up her videos soon, well, hers will be linked in there as well. Anyways, so what was the book of the month? Well, I'll split that in two. The best self-published book, Werewolf of Whitechapel. Highly, highly recommend picking this one up. Best book overall, Gardens of the Moon. Really hard to beat this one. And I will get back to Malazan or Malazan or however you want to say it at the end of this video. But moving forward, what did I get last month? Well, after watching Michael K. Vaughn's videos so much and talking about Conan, I picked up the three. Was it Del Rey Prince? Yep, Del Rey, Prince of Conan. We have The Bloody Crown of Conan, The Coming of Conan, and The Conquering Sword of Conan. So, old school sword and sorcery stuff. I figured I'd give it a shot. Haven't read too much of it, but I do like the Conan comics that came out, so give these a try. I'm sure I'll like it. Then some more fantasy. I've heard so much talk about Daniel Abraham, so I picked up The Shadow and Betrayal and The Price of War, which collects all of the Long Price Quartet. So heard lots of great things about it. So check it out, and I will let you guys know as I read it. I don't know if it's going to be too soon on these, but we will see. Now moving on to a little bit of nonfiction stuff. We have the autobiographies, well, biographies. This is an autobiography, Yours Cruelly, Elvira, by Cassandra Peterson. I have the audiobook of this. It was an amazing audiobook, and I had to pick up the hardcover because Elvira is awesome. Then we have the the biography of Marie Fredrickson from Roxette, Listen to My Heart, Life, Love, and Roxette. This, well, if you're familiar with the 80s or early 90s, then, well, you're familiar with Roxette. They had so many hits back in the day. Great band, and I'll stand by that one. Anyways, moving on. I've heard so much about this author, Randall Munroe, and his books, What If, especially. And it is a serious scientific question or answers to absurd hypothetical questions. Then we have How to, absurd scientific advice for common real world problems. What If 2, even more scientific answers to absurd questions. And then Thing Explainer, complicated stuff in simple words, all by Randall Munroe. I've heard his stuff is quite hilarious. I do enjoy to laugh, so well, I picked them up. And well, a few for future videos. We have The Mayan Prophecies and Interior Design with Feng Shui. Interesting, right? I've talked quite a bit about the band Tool. They had a reading list that went out quite a few years ago, and those two books were on that, and that is a future video. Quite a far off future video, but still a future video. And moving on, we have Burton on Burton, the Tim Burton autobiography, which, yeah, I mean, look at me. Tim Burton's one of my guys, so yes. And still staying with Tim Burton, we have Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, the full film script. I am a writer. I do enjoy screenwriting, so, well, any scripts I can get a hold of movies that I enjoy, I tend to like getting them and reading through and, well, getting some secondhand education, firsthand education. Well, regardless, I learned from the screenplays and scripts and stuff like that, and it's awesome. But anyways, I said I was going to talk about Malazan a little bit at the end of the video, and, well, it's getting towards the end of the video. So what was I talking about? Well, come with me. talked about how much I loved Gardens of the Moon, and well, what I'm reading right now is Dead House Gates. I'm only about 5 chapters in, but still just as confused and still as excited about the story. And I may have went a little tiny bit overboard. You see, I got all the trade paperbacks of the Book of the Fallen. That annoys me. And the main Esselmont series. That also annoys me. But we shall fix that in time. So yeah, it goes without saying that there's going to be a lot of Malazan content coming your way in the next few months. Actually, several months, because it's going to take more than a few months to get through all that. But anyways, I hope you enjoy that, which is kind of funny because when I started this channel, I definitely did not intend to read any of the Malazan books. So, well, thank you, Tori. I think I have a new author, favorite author now, with Stephen Erickson. So that is an actual thank you. But anyways, enough rambling. If you guys want to come check out and talk with me between videos, come hang out on Discord. I hang out a lot in page turners, so great little community. Link in the description. And this summer has been rough, and definitely rough here. And well, for a lot of people I know, it's been rough. It's been rough for you. I hope it's getting better. If not, and you feel like you're being kicked while you're down and you just can't get up, well, tag me in.
Sister Abigail! Cover! Spear! And Bray wins!
I'll definitely help you out to fight, and, well, or at least give you a nice little cheer. So, on that note, love you guys. Bye.